All right, very good. We're starting the meeting this evening. This is the recycling committee meeting, a regular meeting on August 8th, Thursday evening at 6:00 p.m. The recycling committee is holding a community forum this evening to go over two grant opportunities. I'm Catherine Ruth, the grant administrator, a former town manager of the town for over 20 years. And when I retired from the town manager's position, we still had a lot of grants going on. So I've stayed on to work on those and to get more grants, which we'll hear about this evening. So let's go around to the committee and the guests.
Hi, I'm Tim Nichols. I'm a former Pittsfield Town Council member. I was on there for 24 years and former deputy mayor, former mayor, and former recycling chair person. And I was invited to this and looking forward to seeing what transpires.
Okay. Ellen Zahuski, a resident and a member of this group.
Don Shute, I'm the public works director, and I also run the transfer station recycling center. Also in the committee.
Scott Jones and a resident of Pittsfield.
Thank you all. And our guest?
Jenny Hart.
Yeah, very good to see you. Thank you. So we have a sign-in sheet this evening for anyone that comes in. Two handouts. The first handout is the forum notice, and it has the community resilience information attached. And then we have a walk audit toolkit, which we got from the American Association of Retired Persons. And so we're going to go over those documents this evening. The recycling committee has been working really hard on a preparation for a climate resilience partnership, in which once we join the partnership with the state, we can then apply for grants. There are grant opportunities up to $50,000 without any match if you work on the items that are in the climate resilience plan that the state has, and you choose your items. So that's what we're going to do this evening, finish up on this, get the information out to the public because people will watch the live stream, and then later on we'll watch the video of the meeting. So we'll get more people involved with the project. So on the Community Resilience Partnership, we're going to go to page 8 to 9. And we're not going to read through all of this. So starting on page 2, we have this document on the town website, and then the walk audit books have to be taken apart. And I'll put that on for everybody too. So on the community resilience self-evaluation, the recycling committee has worked on this for 4 evenings, done a great job. And there's been a lot of information we need to put together. So this is to have the community increase resilience to natural hazards and climate change impacts. And as Chris Ferrier, who's not able to be here this evening, she has said for many years, as a recycling committee member that works on climate items, that we have climate change. And so it's hard to think, some people don't think we have any climate change, but a lot is going on and we need to prepare for it. And so we will be preparing for natural hazards and climate change impacts. So to start out on page 2, we're going to go to the second half of the page, and the committee and guests need to decide on 2 items that the community is doing well in the area of addressing natural hazards and climate change impacts. So we had 5, and you actually had more. So we're going to narrow this down to 2. So what are 2 things your community is doing well? We had 1, emergency response of fire rescue EMS in addressing threats, active shooter, and assisting the elderly. 2, airport and hospital landing areas for transport. 3, downtown village with a historic public library and 7 parks. 4, obtaining low interest loans for water sewer enhancements. And that had to, on the surface, it doesn't look at deals with climate change, but because of all the hot and cold weather and all of the freezes and unfreezes, this causes rocks and movement, rocks to get into the water sewer lines and movement of those lines, which then can cause breaks or issues. And 5, applying for grants as an alternative revenue source to taxes. So we need to pick 2 of these. Anyone have any thoughts on what you'd like to leave
And
there?
it's supposed to directly relate to the climate change.
Yes,
Okay,
and some of them don't.
yeah, okay.
I think we could take out number 3, downtown village with a
Yeah.
historic public library and 7 parks. We do this well, but it's not
Yes.
climate change.
yes. Um,
I don't think the airport and hospital landing areas necessarily. I think the first one definitely.
Definitely, yeah. We want to keep number 1.
And then I would say number 4, because, you know, I mean, the water sewer enhancements is definitely related to, I would think, climate change stuff too.
Yeah, with these historic lines, some dating
Yeah.
back to 1899 and
Yeah.
1902.
Increased
I
flooding.
think that would be my second choice as
Yep.
well, number 4.
All right, so let's go with number 1, emergency response, and number 4, obtaining low interest loans to address water sewer enhancements. Next, what are the 2 areas that could be improved in the short term? So addressing climate resilience and natural hazards. 1, address apathy since COVID, generate more community spirit. 2, enhance notification to the public of activities and programs. Communication of hazard preparedness information on shelters, evacuation routes and supplies. Number 3, reopen the reuse center. Number 4, bring back the Egg Festival with a different focus. Number 5, hold a community forum to educate about climate change. Number 6, hold a celebration about the river, its geography, and having a river park, a walk from park to park. So we would keep 2 of these.
I think 5 is probably the most important, saying the more that somehow engage the public in climate issues. I would think that that would be something that, I mean, we're working on it, but it can always, the more community involvement, the better.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think number 2 is probably important too.
So we think number 2, number 5,
I like 6.
you like 6.
And it's not so much celebration as to, we have this river. You know, what it gives us, the treasures it has, and how climate change can impact everything, the flooding, it, you know,
Well,
the natural habitat and everything else.
there definitely is flooding there. All right, so
do
we got 2.
I have a thing, in the first question, what are 2 things, the first one, number 1 already says emergency response of fire and addressing threats, safety and
Mhm.
assisting elderly, it's kind of almost. Could we kind of combine it? Enhance notification of public of activities and programs, it's, I don't know, it's almost like,
How do you get communications in this
oh, it's
town?
emergency, one is emergency and one is just plain old communication.
What's part of this communication to the, because right now, how do we
Yeah,
communicate? How
yeah,
do,
one is emergency and then the other is.
how are we gonna get things across to people? Here's
Yeah,
here's
Yep.
another issue. We have
yep, I see what you mean.
evacuation. When's the last time we talked about that? Remember? Probably Jenny can remember this. I remember as a kid, they used to have the old civil defense warning.
Oh,
Each
yeah.
one of the number of blows would
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah,
what was going on and what we could do, so communicate, but if we had a massive wildfire that was out here.
Yeah.
And we had everything on fire, what are people supposed to do, how are we gonna communicate, how are we gonna?
Yeah,
probably
no,
should
good
have-
point,
Probably should have something,
good point, yeah.
emergency managers do it well, I mean, you
Yeah,
got guys
there's
that do this all the
emergency.
time, but does it actually get out to the people that need it?
thing is, when we
reach the
cell
ball.
phones now, cell phones really, I mean, as long as you've got a cell phone, people are getting information all the time, but if you don't have a cell phone, then you're.
And they're also a big communicator of disinformation. I'd like to take
Oh,
that thing
yeah.
and stomp all
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of disinformation that goes on.
Cause it goes out so fast.
Right, before we
How do you
even
know
know
it's
what's
a
going on.
reliable source?
The old emergency alert system, but more for the community, like where do we know if we have a snowstorm, where do volunteers and people get together to take care of the, if we have a massive
Yeah. Exactly.
blizzard, we'll have the downtown as the walk around as the safe area of Grove Hill. No, so that's something, yeah, that's definitely gonna affect it. I can see that. Yeah, that's definitely gonna affect it. I can see that climate
Yeah.
change would do that.
Okay, 2 and 5,
Want to go with 2 and 5?
2 and 5.
All right, good. So that's enhanced notification to the public of different disasters and hazard preparedness. And 5, hold a community forum to educate about climate change. Definitely important items to do, and they can be done in the short term. What is important to your community to address in the long term? It doesn't say two, so we can keep the ones that you want. So we've got number one, community resilience given severe weather storms. Two, tree canopy strengthened by pruning, cutting, and tree planting. Number three, sustainability for upcoming debt service after the Pittsfield Future Fund is depleted. Four, reduce underlying vulnerabilities, which is housing availability and certainly affordability. And for number three, the town currently has a fund that we can use to pay the debt service on regular bonds for highway building and other items that are non-water sewer. And that was money that came back to us from the Maine State Retirement System, now called Maine Purse. But at a certain point, 3 to 4 years from now, that's gonna run out. So how are we gonna address all these debt service payments? It would be a lot of money that would affect the tax rate. So that's something that needs to be addressed in the long term. It would affect what we can do for work on the climate change and activities, but it may not be something to put on here. Well, it is an issue.
It's another one, if you don't have the funds to take care of things, then yeah, you're in trouble. You gotta have the.
Well, you know that.
Sorry, I'm late.
No problem at all. There's a handout on the
It's
table.
okay.
for you.
Just keep raising taxes, right?
Yeah, you can go right
How
on
long is that
there.
gonna work? Okay, we ain't getting any money.
Okay.
Yep, got them all there for you.
It almost seems that the community resilience and the tree canopy is. The tree canopy is something direct that we're doing to improve the resilience, and so it seems like that would be,
That's a no-brainer.
that takes care of the first one.
Yes, I understand.
But in terms of long term, I think four. That's a problem for everybody.
It's a problem for everyone, there's the
Everywhere.
housing,
Yeah.
definitely, and it's not something you can. Enhance just in 1 year, it is a long-term issue. So we're on page 2 of the handout, going over. The first question, the last question on page 2. So we're gonna leave tree canopy. And reduce underlying vulnerabilities. Do you wanna leave anything else or just leave those two? We're gonna take out the first one because it's a duplication. All right, looks like we got 3. We'll go to page 3. First question at the top. What specific 3 to 5 actions are priorities for your community? And we've got 6 listed here. So you may want 3 to 5 or less or more. So 1, safety for citizens, having a system of notification of hazards and resources, including preparedness information. 2, tree canopy stabilized. 3, plan to address a train derailment or spill of chemicals. 4, housing availability and affordability. 5, heating, cooling centers. 6, people being civil.
I like this. I thought that's what it meant.
I think keep first 5 and get rid of the 6th one. 'cause
Yeah, you can,
Civility,
yeah,
that's
it's
something for the
out of our control.
out of our control, police department, they talk about national guard, so it gets to that sort of event, so.
Safety.
Yeah, and no matter how
Tree canopy
resilient we
tenders,
are.
ranging around
From working up at the
maybe
transfer station for 3 days, they'll get civil real quick because they'll see what uncivility looks like.
I've worked there 31 years, my
Yeah.
friend, tell me, I know, I see it every day, I hear it every day.
I know.
Yeah, it's, and, yeah, we're definitely living in troubled times, and I keep saying it's climate change, because the hotter the weather gets, the hotter people's attitudes get.
So we'll leave the first 5 and take off people being civil, that's a different
Yes.
type of issue.
That's a broad issue.
Yes. So the next part of our project is minimizing risks and exposure to hazards. And rather than reading all of these, they're on a same trend. So I'm gonna list the questions and we'll talk about this overall. And so basically, under this area, has your community expressed the likelihood of various types of hazards or disruptive events is question 1. Question 2, has your community assessed how the likelihood of each hazard has changed over time and may change in the future? 3, has your community assessed the impacts or consequences of each type of hazard for the community? 4, is your community taking steps to reduce exposure to multiple risk types? Oh, that's a 6, it should be 5. 5, is your community preparing for low probability but high consequence events? And I think, the number changed here. And it says 7, but should be 6. This has been an interesting document here.
Yeah.
Has your community assessed the consequences of multiple events or different types of hazards occurring in geographic or temporal proximity? 8, which should be 7, is your community assessing emerging risks such as droughts, wildfire, and identifying blind spots? So this is all about identifying items, what we're doing, what are the specific actions? And so we had written, the Somerset County Hazard Mitigation Plan is under review, and it's been out for people to look at now in the emergency preparedness area. And the new updated plan will address all these new hazards. The older one didn't, because we didn't have some of the items that are taking place now, all these power outages, some storms where 3 inches of rain come down. And so they've listed a whole variety of items. The issue is that it's not specific to each town. The county has one overall for the county so that we can get funding, because it's listed if there's a disaster and it's declared by the governor. So it's important, we thought from the different meetings and discussions, that we have a detailed plan for Pittsfield. What do we do if there's a drought? What do we do if there's a power outage? And it's gonna be 7 days, it's the middle of winter. How do we protect everyone? You know, do people just stay in their houses and do the best they can? Would there be a heating center, area where people could go? Where is the certified evacuation? You know, where do people go? We don't have a certified shelter location. It's sort of, you know, whatever the incident is, then they figure out what to do. So should we have a plan? We have all these new people that have moved in. How do they know what to do? And if you think of the last storm that we had in December, when the power was out in most of the town for 3 days, there were areas the power wasn't out. You know, people didn't know what areas were out or not out. How do we get the information out? So you can say, yes, you can call into CMP, but if your phones don't work, and what happens when your battery runs out on the cell phone, you know, what do we do? And we need a plan, basically. It's very important, especially with all these hazards coming in. So this is what we identified as a major item that we should be doing once we get to the strategies and everything. So all of these items talk about the need for more specific items dealing with prolonged power outages. What happens if you don't have any gas in town? And that has happened back in the flood. Back in 92, 97, there were a couple of events in which this did happen. So where are the vulnerable populations? Where are the people that we need to help? When I was in Topsom, we had the ice storm. And we were fortunate, we had a full-time emergency services, and the director and the town organized groups to go out and look for people along the different roads where we knew that the elderly were living. And we were able to help them get some food, make sure they were all right. They actually saved a couple of lives. We had people that were so cold that they had their little gas heaters going, and they would be by the gas heater with a plastic sheet over them, which is definitely dangerous. So there was some education after that for the public, which worked out good. But not every town has that service. So how do you, what do you do? So we talked about the need to figure out the vulnerable populations and then have a system to help people. And so that's the first part. So you can see a trend there. Is there anything we want to change? We got a couple of yeses here, but most of this is no. We got the yeses because of the Somerset County plan, the fact that we participated in that process, and the plan assists us to get money for disasters to help people for both the town and in some cases for citizens that have disruption to their services or structures are damaged. But basically, we had come to the consensus that we needed to have a plan. Yeah, everybody's in agreement.
Yeah.
All right, good. We'll go on to the second section, and we got one after that. Understanding sensitivity and building resilience. This talks about number 9, which is actually 8. I'm just gonna read these off as they are. Is your community tracking underlying societal characteristics and trends that increase vulnerability? So do we have trends regarding vulnerability? 10, is your community proactively addressing vulnerabilities associated with these underlying characteristics? Oh, a number, no, we're gonna get back on the right one. This one has 10 again.
Number 1, and then it goes to 12.
This document is something else. Some of the towns actually redid the document themselves and typed it out because it does this funny stuff.
Yeah,
Does your community have financial resources in reserve to cope with or absorb shocks? 12, is your community building flexible human capacity that can be drawn on in emergencies? And we did pretty good in this area because we do have the characteristics and the trends in our comprehensive plan. It talks about all the items we should be doing, the housing availability, transportation for seniors and everything. We also do have funds, a rainy day fund, not so much, but we do have reserve funding available for certain projects, building projects. Funding available toward a fire truck, funding available for paving until recently. But we did put money away for different capital improvements, so that's good if things happen to the roads along with the sewer, the buildings. And in terms of human capacity, we do have mutual aid for all the fire departments. I remember when SAS building, they thought it was on fire and the fire was there. I don't know how all those old fire trucks from all the towns came, but they were 10 towns, fire trucks here within just a few minutes, because if that went, the whole road was gonna go and everything. All the houses down there, that were in close vicinity, it would have been a fire of a lifetime. And they all got there and they got the fire out. It's just in the wooden connector. Some kids were in there playing around. It wasn't a deliberate thing, but it did cause a lot of damage. But we have that system in place that works really well, and we saw it on that event. And we also have mutual aid with 2 neighboring police departments. It's probably good to get mutual aid with a few more, and we have it with the sheriff's department, and of course, if there's something big, the state police come. So those areas are really good. And it would be good, we thought, to have a list of informed volunteers that understood what to look for. You know, if we ever did have the power out for 7 days and it was winter, we wanted to go out and check on everybody, which we should do door to door. You would have volunteers who are trained to organize that and go out. But I think in those areas, some of them we've done well. We've talked about different items that we would do. And we have on the next page, page 5. And this is under the category, which moved over on the page, improving long-term adaptive capacity. That would be number 13. Does your community have plans or policies that anticipate future climate risks and community sensitivity trends? 14, are there resources to sustain new capacity when needed? 15, does the community have policies in place to build back smarter or recover with resilience after a disruptive event? 16, does the community stress test to ensure plausible risks are manageable? 17, does the community have a policy or process for managing uncertainty? All right, so most of those questions are pretty clear on what we have. We don't have plans or policies that anticipate future climate risks. So we talked about creating a climate action plan along with a method to inform people of what's going on, and that would all go together. We've talked about the need to look at the significance of climate change and how town services need to be more climate resilient. We're fortunate that we've separated stormwater out of the sewer system extensively. When I got here, I think it was only 3 years later, we had a massive storm and there was so much water in the system that the manhole covers were moving on one of the roads headed down to where all the sewer goes, down to the lagoons. It was scary. There was so much stormwater, so we were very fortunate. We got a USDA grant of $3.2 million to work on the sewer system. A 30-year grant and loan. Most of it was grant, but some of it was loan, and 30 years to pay it back. But we got the stormwater out of the system, so now when you have all these storms, we don't have anything like that happens.
Where does it go? How's it rerouted, the storm?
Yeah, what was happening is the lines were, the water was getting into the lines in all these different areas. If your mains are, 50, 60, 70, 80 or more years old. They did a study to identify where the infiltration was coming in by opening up the manhole covers, and you could estimate what was going on. All of a sudden you had a bunch of big flow and you have only certain roads, you could track it down. So the engineers did that study. Then we applied for the funding to clean out the lagoon system because it hadn't been cleaned out for over 20 years. And we also applied for funding to replace some of the mains. So once they figured out where all the infiltration was coming in, those were the identified sewer mains that would be addressed. And because we put this out to bid at a period of time in which it was unfortunate, but there wasn't a lot of work out there. A lot of people are unemployed. And the prices from the contractors were really low. We got more work done according to the USDA at that period of time. And I'm sure somebody's done it since then, got more work done than anyone ever anticipated. Instead of getting 3 roads done, we got 9 roads done of sections of sewer. So after that was done, you have your new sewers there that the water doesn't get into. And then that means less water goes into the sewer system.
Cool.
We were very fortunate. So that project worked out really well for us.
So that's why it all ends up in my backyard now. It really did change after they put the new sewer line in, all the surface water.
Because the water doesn't get in there and it's, all
Yeah,
over
made
the
a big
place.
difference.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing.
Yeah.
You put it in the sewer system and then it comes out every manhole and every street, you got sewer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably not a good idea.
Makes a nice rink.
And you'd rather have a
Makes a
mud
good
puddle
ice
than you would have toilet paper and everything else in the yard probably, so
Yeah.
it's.
I remember when I came to town, it was the first 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, people called up, there was sewer running down on Main Street. Out on the, it was actually out on the ground and everything. So this was a massive project that did wonders for the town, really improved the
Yeah.
system, made it a lot safer. So basically in this section, there are a lot of items that we've already done. It talks about having floodplain ordinances and zoning ordinance that deal with different items. It talks about if somebody has substantial damage, having a way to direct them to take care of it. And our building code does have that, although it is difficult to enforce. A lot of these items we have, a few we don't have. The last one, how do we manage uncertainty? We just said, use common sense. You can plan for everything, but you can't plan for uncertainty. That's kind of a strange question. So all of these have led to a few trends. A trend of wanting to have a plan to deal with all these natural disasters and taking care of our resources and everything. And dealing with the climate change. How do we address all this? How do we notify people? So out of our study came these trends. So then we go to page 6. And this is where the committee chose some strategy areas. There were a lot more strategy areas than what we chose. The state gave us a lot of choices. I'll just note quickly that strategy area A, where you could do projects that the town could be funded by the state to address climate resilience. They had strategy area A, embrace the future of transportation. And that talked about having electric vehicles. We didn't choose that one. There was a lot of other items there too. B was modernize Maine's buildings, and although this would all be wonderful, we struggle now with the MUBEC, the Maine Building and Energy Code, and trying to meet that. So going a bit further might be difficult, this whole rural area. Strategy area C, reduce emissions through clean energy innovation. And this is one we might want to go back and do a few things with, but it's targeting the emissions and everything of the vehicles, which is hard to do. We did not choose that area. Strategy area D, grow jobs and protect natural resource industries. All wonderful items, but a lot of this deals with the private sector. And brownfields, of which we only have one here in town, which we believe is a brownfield. And there is other funding for that, which is underway. So that gets us to strategy area E, which is in your handout. And that is to build healthy and resilient communities. And this is an important area in which, again, we're not going to go down for all this, but it talks about plan for community resilience. And this is where we identified that we should look and have a vulnerability assessment as part of this plan. To conduct a community vulnerability assessment, to identify climate risk and vulnerable populations, adopt a climate action plan. And we talked about warning systems, to adopt a process to warn people of different items. Develop and adopt community evacuation plans, advertise these, because that's so important to know what we're doing here. Develop a storm debris management plan, and that's not only for along the roads and the town properties, it's also for private sector. Because what happens when you have, 60 or 70 trees down, which we have seen during different storms, and then all this debris is out there.
One quick question, on the evacuation routes, is that something that, the letters, and how do you translate that? Is that something that they would broadcast? If they actually needed the evacuation routes and tell you which ones I don't understand how they.
Yeah, I think that's something that would be studied. We're not a city, so we don't need to have, a lot of items. There's already evacuation route from I-95 that goes through town. You've seen those new little signs that DOT put up.
Yeah.
Which people have questioned, because nobody knew what was going on, including the town. But in any case, we would have to figure that all out. We're not experts on this, where would you go? It depends on what the item is and where it's happening. So that's where the overall risks would be reviewed. In certain areas, you would know would flood. In certain areas, certain items might happen. Flooding's the major one. But with all of this debris down, what would happen if we had a big fire? I mean, it actually could happen in certain circumstances because so much trees have fallen down in the forest on town property, private property. And even cleanup, from one of the storms, there was so much material out there. During COVID, we had town employees go door to door to pick up things, which was a wonderful thing, but very tiring and took a lot of energy and money. But we did get everything cleaned up that people put out, which everybody appreciated, but you can't do that every year with the staffing. So this was an area that we needed to plan for community resilience, and that takes care of the first 4. And then reduce flood risk. We did not pick this one because we already have a floodplain ordinance. We participate in the floodplain insurance. People have the insurance, which is costly. We have the floodplain maps. So they talk about having the boards by the dams. We have those all up and everything. So basically, this is an area that we don't need to work on reduced flood risk. And of course, in these categories, we can't do 40 projects. We have to pick out a few. And so we picked out plan for community resilience, reduce flood risk. We thought we were doing well in. The next one on page 7 is strengthen public health. And in the 5 categories, we identify public health threats and include in the vulnerability study, identify locations where we could have people go, if there were cooling centers that were needed in extreme temperatures. I mean, we had a couple of days there where it was over 100 and, in some areas, they talk about the environmental justice that's needed, because in cities, they don't have many trees which help keep the temperature down. You have just the pavement, and if you go up to places, like the plaza, it's a lot hotter up there than it is down in the street where there are trees. So that's why we applied for a grant, from, Canopy, Project Canopy, to do some pruning and planting some trees in certain areas, because so many have come down along the road. But determine the vulnerable populations. Figure out how to address, dealing with mosquitoes on the town farm. We listed the different items, but basically, we would identify public health threats and include them in the vulnerability study. So going on to page 9 of 10, which is actually page 8 now. Strategy area G, investing climate ready infrastructure. And again, it talks about vulnerability assessments, having a capital investment plan to, once you identify these items, pay to make changes, be able to implement changes, improve and protect drinking water, wastewater treatment. Adopt a policy that prioritizes green infrastructure to manage stormwater. Adopt the stream smart crossing guidelines from DEP. Assess wastewater treatment plans for clean energy. So the town has already done some of these items, but again, in the first one, conduct a vulnerability assessment. We chose that one because that fits in with all the other items that we've been mentioning. The capital improvement plan is important. We currently have a we had a capital improvement plan, totaling $54 million, and we're not gonna do all these things. You can only do what you need, but it doesn't have, an assessment for the critical community infrastructure, so we'd have to talk about whether we would want to put more onto the capital improvement plan. And I think when we do a study, it will come up, there are things that we should do. And obviously, we're not gonna spend $54 million, so everything's on the list, but you do what you can. So again, in all these categories, it talks about the vulnerability assessment. And we've already done a lot with best practices from Maine DOT, so we didn't think, we would look at the DEP guidelines, but we can't do everything. And wastewater is in great shape. The lagoon system is the largest in the state of Maine. It works really
Can you
well.
explain what the lagoon system is? I had no idea.
We should take you down there.
What lagoon? I'm like.
Yes, a lagoon system, rather than have a sewer treatment plant, which is very costly. This is a system where the sewerage goes into ponds, and there are 2 ponds, which by the time it gets through the ponds with this system that's set up, the water, you actually have clean water that goes into the stream, basically. So it goes into the river. Once it goes through the 2 lagoon systems, the water, of course, is dirty in the beginning. The solids settle out, and then clean water goes out into the river, which is tested all the time. So the lagoon system.
These are man-made lagoons someplace,
Yes.
where are they located?
Down by your house. No,
Down behind the airport.
Okay,
And
yeah.
basically, it works on natural decomposition. So you got 2 30-acre ponds, so if you can imagine it, it's almost a mile on each pond is almost a mile long, and they're about quarter mile wide. So
The
you got-
access road is just going down the hill. You know,
Yeah, I know. So you got to
It goes all the way
cross
down
property.
through.
If you go way back in there, it's a pretty neat process, so.
Cool.
All the sewer comes into that first pond, and you get there and you can tell, you can see all of the solids and
mhm.
the toilet paper solids and everything there, and it slowly goes out and it breaks down as it goes into the middle of the pond, and everything, it ends up just being silt in the bottom, it all.
Does it decompose?
It does, it
eventually
all
decompose?
decomposes on the bottom and turns into what we would call siltous compost. And then that pond at the other end has a entrance into what they call the affluent pond,
Okay.
which is the other 30-acre pond, which basically you could dip your cup in it and drink it. It's clean water. It's just, it's rainwater. And by the time that gets out, that water drains into the second pond, which is there, and then it goes through a reed bed. All the cattails and reeds is like 45 acres of reeds, and it filters through, and then by the time it goes into the river, it's clean water.
Cool.
Cool.
So can you
So you
get
don't
more into
add, we
this?
don't have to add chemicals, we don't have to pay for electricity for mixes and stirrers, which you come go to other towns, you can smell the sewer.
Yeah,
When they agitate, do that stuff, you can
Yeah.
smell it, costly because they throw everything in the toilet, so it's a lot costly. Heartland's facility, if you ever get a chance, you go in Heartland on a warm summer day, you can smell their facility.
well, do we get a tour of this? Cause I didn't know it existed. Are people allowed down there and you?
They are allowed down there, but you probably would want to go with somebody.
Yeah, and you can't get in through the inner gate, you can get through the outer gate and walk down, it's a nice walk, a lot of people use it as a walking path, but.
You mentioned that, it had been cleaned, the sediment, after 20 years or something, it had been.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah, we cleaned it out.
They estimated it was gonna be $35 million to dredge that pond. Because of all the solids over the 25 or 28
Yeah.
years. Cost us what, under $600,000?
Yes, and so the
That's
rest
how
of the
well it
monies
goes
were
down. The
were
company that came
utilized
up
for the
here,
sewers.
North Carolina, said they're gonna spend, what, 2 months here, they spent 2 weeks here, and like, we're out of work. That was a. So.
3 engineering studies
So it really
told us how
worked.
much was in there. It was totally wrong.
Okay, yeah, well, that's what I was wondering, eventually you have
And,
to.
yeah.
And if you go down there, the wildlife is down there, there is ducks and geese and cranes
I
and
know, that's the
turtles
thing,
and
that
fish.
the birds, they must be on that second pond.
That affluent pond, you'll see fish.
Yeah.
You know, that happen to get through the reed beds, but it's a whole, wetland.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Experience down there. as
Cool.
far as-
Yeah.
So the first year I was here, a gentleman was adamant he was gonna go down hunting at the lagoon system because that property had the fattest deer and the biggest deer because they're all out there, you know, at the lagoons. So we kept telling the gentleman he couldn't do that. It wasn't safe. We had employees down there. We did not want people down there. And why, why would you want to go down and shoot the deer and other animals that are feeding down there? We couldn't convince him, so he came to the council meeting. Finally, they told him that he would not go down there. Yeah. It's good hunting. According to residents.
Yeah,
It's also good trapping. Muskrats,
Yeah.
they burrow in the ground, they hang from the river,
Yeah.
come through the reeds, they eat reeds, so they come in, that's why we have to mow around the edge of the lagoon, because they start picking.
So is all that water, when they built those ponds, that must have just been groundwater, I mean, natural water fills the ponds right up.
Well, it's your town water filling it up. Every time you flush a toilet.
Now.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And
you fill the
before
pond.
that-
I was just thinking of all the water that,
Well, think about this, when we were talking about the stormwater diversion,
all that.
that one big storm Catherine was talking about. Our sewer system was handling 14 million gallons a day of stormwater runoff into those ponds, that's a lot of water.
Yeah,
And if you get too much, what happens to those ponds? They overfill and then it's gonna speed up the process, so we don't want sewer going out into the river. So there's a natural process. Now they get 100,000 gallons a day, so look at the difference from.
so where
Taking out
does the
the ground.
stormwater go
Taking out all
besides
that
my
stuff.
yard in the
yeah.
basement?
Yeah, and if you've ever seen those ponds are massive. They've got roads that go around them. You can drive, it takes you a while to drive around each one of them. Like,
Well,
you-
those series of storms, how much did we get that in 1 week when we had a storm every day? Oh, I'd say over 6 inches of rain, 12 inches of rain.
Yeah,
that much.
2.8, 2.6, 3.4, and 2.9, so you figure that out, we got a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never seen a stretch of that kind of weather, day after day after day with that much water.
Yeah, if we had not been able to take the stormwater out and that would have been, we would have been in a natural
We get
disaster.
to a point, we can discharge.
Okay,
'cause they-
where does the stormwater go?
On and get a bunch of it out if you know we're gonna get.
Everywhere, it dissipates out. We had to,
Yeah,
put in some stormwater culverts and everything in certain areas. But usually it dissipates out.
Okay,
All right, very good. A lesson on the lagoon system.
thank you.
We were fortunate that there was not much material in there. All right, so I think we've covered that page 8. So page 9 is the last one. And we chose strategy area H, engage Maine people, because the people in the town are not engaged or informed or involved in the process. How can you even do anything? So you have to make sure that people are involved and understand what's going on. It's good communication. So the areas that are listed are establish or recognize an official committee of community stakeholders. H1, H2 is, see, now we've got H's here. All right, H2 instead of numbers, create a climate change education outreach and engagement program focused on mitigation and adaptation for residents and businesses. H3, amplify public health advisories for climate-related health and weather events, and there's a list of those, such as extreme heat, cold events, etc. H4, engage youth in resilience, clean energy, and energy use reduction. H5, engage populations that are vulnerable to climate impacts and resilience, clean energy, and emissions reduction. This is under increased public awareness of climate change impacts and opportunities to take action. So this is to involve people, get them to look at climate change and what are the opportunities. So in that area, we talked about determine how to provide climate change education outreach, publicize opportunities and resources for items such as hold another energy forum, hold a climate resilience forum. We're great at doing real community forums. We're currently reviewing a community alert system through a new website format that we would have for 2025, in which people can go in and sign up for emails and texts. So we can promote messages for things. But what do you do if all your electricity is down? You don't
Doesn't
have the
work.
website. You don't have the website. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't work. So how do you notify people again? And engaging youth, the schools have been involved. They've done quite a few projects. They were involved in energy projects. But we could have the seniors do projects in energy areas that would benefit both MCI and the town. They worked on a lot of projects in the past. One that comes to mind I didn't mention on here is, it talks about addressing ticks. They did a major project on ticks and learning about them and how to be safe and everything. And when we went into the gym, they had pictures of ticks that were huge. It was kind of a creepy forum, but a lot of education for people and resources.
Are people experiencing ticks this year? I haven't seen any down around us.
That's good.
They're bad.
Other places have had that all
My
along.
coworker had one on her in her staffing this morning. It wasn't Fairfield. She pulled it off. She goes, that a tick? And then she killed the tick and there was blood in it. So it already sucked. So yeah, I thought this morning on my coworker.
They're bad.
Not good.
Tall grass, any place where you're gonna have wildlife, that's usually the problem.
I think
That's
I've
right,
been
but-
fox running through our backyard all the time, but I haven't seen any ticks.
That's a good thing.
That's good, it's good, we get them at the transfer station, we at least get 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
Guys, that when they're working on the ditches and stuff, come in with 3 or 4 of them, some of them, we've had, well, I think we sent 7 over the workplace, now we've had 7 incidents where we sent them over there to have them detached.
How do you, like hook up solar panels to, and feed it into the grid? Because somebody's Sundog Solar was down at where I live and is putting a few personal solar panels on one or 3 of the roofs where I live. And I've heard they're doing it to make the heat pumps work better, but I don't know, I don't believe everything I hear, because everybody blows sunshine up at everybody's butt there.
Yeah. There are all kinds of programs made
Yeah.
right now for that stuff, so probably that's what it is.
I think
You
it's
can get
just-
rebates from the state. The electricians know how to do this and the solar companies.
Yeah,
But there are programs in which you would have that come out on your electric bill. And in some places, solar panels on one roof can function for a whole family, several buildings. So there's a lot of different programs. So it's likely there's a program going on. there.
yeah, I don't know what's going on, all I know is that they're doing it on 3 roofs where I live, and they already put that, like, posts up on it, so. I tried to ask questions, but they didn't know, all they knew was they were installing them.
Because they're the installers.
Yeah.
That does raise another thing that really hasn't been much about insects
Mhm.
that are coming this way too.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is
ticks,
true.
more ticks.
Well, it's part of
more-
climate change.
Well, we did mention mosquito-borne illnesses, but just in terms of agriculture and trees. I mean, we've got a lot of things that are coming this way too, that doesn't seem. I'm not sure how we start addressing that too, but
They're coming from overseas containers, yeah, we're getting a lot of different ones, the Japanese beetle, now they take them hold, and now
they're fine and a little bit, they aren't as bad as they used to be. There are things, they've got a parasite.
Yeah.
That actually is taking care of them, but all of these other insects.
Yeah, that won't start yet, which is down south now, that they've had 15 cases down in southern Maine, once you get bit by that, you can't have any red meat again.
So this is a very good point. I'm gonna add that in a sentence by the mosquitoes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably be out there.
So our last part, under our last strategy here, engage Maine people,
Yeah.
is engage the business community and recognize climate leadership. And it talks about H6, create and support an energy reduction campaign or challenge among businesses. H7, initiate a community bulk purchasing program. So basically, we put for the bulk purchasing program, we're not gonna create one. We go hook up with somebody else that has, when the state has purchasing programs that we've been involved with, we've done cooperative ones with KB cog. There's other ones that can be done. But we could create and support an energy reduction campaign, invite businesses to have input and provide information for the campaign. So that is something that can be done. We've done energy forums in which we've invited the different representatives from all the federal and state agencies in on the rebates, the different items you can do to reduce your energy. So at some point, we can have a forum to address climate, energy, and all of that. So that is our project, and it was a requirement that we have a public forum on it. Although we did have 4 public forums previously, this is the big one, which was advertised as such. And so we've done that. Is there anything besides the changes on the first pages when we eliminated some of our items on when we needed two things or 2 areas? And adding a sentence about the insects or the mosquitoes are listed. Anything else we wanna do?
Just along with the, has Pittsfield had an issue with brown tail moth?
Yes.
It's everywhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
factor.
I know, well, yeah, that's, as the weather's changing, that's the big thing, and it's not just for the health risks for us. But I just, on Roberts, the night, Monday night. and The different invasive species of cottonworms and things that are coming, we're not gonna be able to grow our own vegetables. Eventually,
Well, I'm fighting every
and you
year.
know, Oregon farmers are fighting the front line because they don't use. They don't use pesticides, they have to use things that are natural and they're not having good luck. I know I was like this year, my God, I've never seen so many pests in my life. Unreal.
All right, very good. I think we are now completed the climate resilience grant information.
I've given up on some stuff, just concentrate on it.
So we're gonna head into the second category, which is a lot more fun. Well, they're both fun, but we'll go into our second item, which is our AARP walk audit. So whereas on the first one, we're putting the information together so we can apply for a grant, which will be in fall, and have an action plan going to the town council at the August 20th meeting. AARP is a grant that we have received. So we were very fortunate. We applied for 2 AARP challenge grants, and I was told it's very competitive. It's rare you get one. There were 3,300 plus applicants. 343 projects were chosen. So our project was chosen for the walk audit from the grant that was submitted. And then we got a call, and we were one of 3 projects that was chosen to be part of the national rollout campaign, in which we were interviewed which went out on social media. So we went from one of 3,300 to one of 343 to one of three for a national rollout, which was amazing. I was astonished. We've gotten some national grants before, and we have another national grant that we can announce in September. Other group will announce it, but this was big. So-
Thank you for your work on that.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
for doing that. Holy
Well,
cow.
thank you. That was a shock. when
Wow.
We got the call to be on the national campaign. So that was wonderful. And I learned a lot. I've been interviewed for a lot of different items, but not over the computer. So now I learned a few things for the next time. But it did go exceptionally well. And they were very pleased. So this is basically a grant which we applied to AARP for a walk audit, and that is to make the community safer and more livable. There's a lot of different campaigns that AARP has, which is absolutely wonderful. They're very well organized. And as we know, Pittsfield is a family-oriented community. We're approximately 4,200, and we are very fortunate to be located right off the interstate. And all of our commercial development, true commercial, is down by the interstate. We have a lot of businesses throughout the town, which is absolutely wonderful, but we do have a little commercial district right by the interstate. And the area of the audit to be studied for this area, for the walk audit, is a half-mile stretch right off the interstate. Going up to a little bit past the motel and the big box store, Family Dollar. We'll also be going into the industrial park. Because that is part of the area that's quite congested. So we have a plaza, a shopping mall, a whole variety of businesses there. So that's all wonderful. And you would think, well, why do you need a walk audit there? But we also have the entrance to the industrial park right there. And then the state of Maine was working on their truck route. And because of the problems with the trucks turning down at the Somerset Main Street intersection, with trucks going up over the sidewalks, not being able to turn. And in the old days, the trucks would hit the traffic lights and knock them down. Until we got a new system. At one point, the reason why we got the new system is a truck knocked down our signal lights and then dragged them down the interstate with people chasing them, which eventually the police got them. They brought them back and DOT put it back up. And then the next day we got a call that we would have a project. So you got the traffic lights up, so they were higher, so they wouldn't be damaged all the time. So in any case, you can't really change the intersection down at Somerset Main Street. So the trucks are routed through the industrial park. So this leads to a highly congested area. You have uncontrolled access from everywhere. And it's wonderful to have these businesses, but even people driving, trying to maneuver through there, you have to be extremely careful. Entering into this, you have people walking across the road or attempting to walk. You have children on bicycles coming from the mobile home park down on Industrial Park.
No
And you have-
sidewalks and there's stroads. I'm finding that word is really helpful. We have a lot of them. That where traffic speeds up, just like the industrial park, it's 40 miles an hour.
45.
45.
45 miles an hour, and you got,
We can't do
at least on one end of it, it's kids and bikes and,
Can't do nothing about it, can't change it.
yeah.
Yeah, we
You're-
tried to change it.
DOTs, we can't, we've actually had residents from town come to the garage and take signs and speed limit signs and go up, change them themselves and put them down to 25, and you gotta go back and put them back
Yeah.
to 45.
Yes, that did not work.
It's happened
No.
on multiple occasions, and again, it is frustrating, it's frustrating on my end, you're right, there's no reason for anybody to be doing 45 on that road. But-
So this can be part of that review.
Right.
You have 47 homes or more now, because I think they've moved in a few more. A lot of children, now the bus goes down there, but a lot of children walk, and then, you know, they want to go to the stores, they ride their bicycle down.
It's difficult just as a car to make a turn there. It's
Exactly.
very with people coming out of the gas station, people come here
Just the
and
parking lot
sometimes it's
itself.
Mhm,
you go, I'll go.
Should be able to be arranged better so that, I mean, it's safer for people walking.
mhm.
I mean,
The population up in that area has increased with people's kids and stuff in the since that 45 mile an hour speed limit.
Mhm.
I think probably they could make a case to DOT in the state that, you know, the demographics down there has changed in the last 10 years. There's a lot more kids there than there used to be. I know, I've lived here my whole life.
That's a huge trailer. park.
Yeah, I'm
That's a
thinking-
Huge park.
I'm thinking that probably that's something that down the road, I think you could make a good case for.
And you got way too many entries in and out of the actual roadway too. You figure there's 2 ways to get into A Roms, there's 2 to get in and out of the credit union and you're coming out of the
Yeah,
plaza.
that's the
then
problem
you're Just
there.
down the street, you've
It's
got.
difficult enough when you're in the automobile,
Conditions,
if you add a pedestrian in there,
I think that you could
it's too
make a
much to look
case.
at, it just, you're looking at
Now
all
the
these
accidents
things.
I've seen with people coming off the interstate with their blinker still going because they didn't shut it off. People think that they're turning, they pull up in traffic.
I have to admit that happened to me today, because then I turned Industrial Road, so I turned it off, but I realized the guy coming out of the gas station thought I was turning into the gas
Gas
station. But then the Industrial Road is right there, so I turned it off and I turned it back on, because I was turning.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah, it's a difficult,
Yeah.
there's definitely something that can happen there to, at least this. My biggest thing, like you said, the pedestrians, they got these little makeshift crosswalks between the divider to go in the plaza even. But you go up there with schoolers, I've never seen that before. The kids coming from the industrial park, from the trailer park, are walking down the side of the other side of the road with the sidewalks not, and walking down to the crossing guard to go to Wausau and Victory. So there's a lot of congestion here with vehicles and pedestrians, it's just a matter of time.
It's a good argument.
Sounds like a perfect place for a walk.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So,
We'll make sure we have plenty of vests on.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
that's
call
part of it.
that.
I would think I would just think there would be a good argument. I know that's not why we're here, but I'm thinking that would be a good argument for the town to petition whoever, whether it's DOT, the state combination of reducing that 45-mile-an-hour speed zone out through there. I mean, because the demographics have certainly changed in the last 15 years. I know they have,
so we have done that a few
And
times.
I know.
the sad thing is really, you won't hear much from the businesses themselves, because I approached them in the past, because you've got people from Walpole and Sonico, they're coming out with bigger trucks, and it takes them a while to get up to speed. They're never gonna get up to 45, so when they turn out coming, you got somebody coming around the corner, you got somebody going at 50, 55. They're almost rear-ending people too, so you won't hear no complaints from businesses, but we've tried in the past, petition, and they don't.
So at this point, we were awarded this project, which is great, and this fits in with a few other items that are going on too. We were very fortunate, and I was surprised we got this, because it's more for the urban areas, but we were awarded $150,000 project for a safety audit, a safety plan to be done for the whole community, so it will be done coming up. Actually at the next council meeting to accept the different items. We've worked on all the beginning work that USDOT requires, but this would be a plan to address some of the safety issues in the community, and we will be excluding the area of the PPI or VPI, the Village Partnership area down on Main Street. So we'll handle the rest of the area. So we were awarded that, so that can help with this project too, because I mentioned it in the grant application. So that should work out well, but basically. We've got a couple of different dates or periods of time we'd like to do the project. But basically the entire project is that, we'll have a little safety, instruction at the beginning. When we decide where we're gonna meet. Originally, we thought we would meet in the Somerset Plaza. However, the AARP gave us a coach who looked at the area and said, it would be wonderful if you could start down at the mobile home park, because then you could experience the whole issue of the people walking down and the bicycles and everything, which was a good idea. I was gonna start on the other end. So we have to get permission, and we have a location where we can all park, but we need permission. We don't have it yet. But once we get that located, we'd like to do this at least the last week of August or the second week of September. But we wanted to make sure that everybody that wants to go, and I have several people that have mentioned that, we have somebody here this evening, is able to go on that walk. So we're gonna need to identify like times, or there's certain dates that we should leave out, certain dates that are good. Is there a period of time we have to start after 3 so everybody can go, or do we start at 8 in the morning? So I think that we'd like to have some of the recycling committee members go, because this would fit right in with what we're doing. And we've got some, interested parties. So what do we think? Police and Public Works, have said they pretty much would help us at any time, as long as an emergency isn't going on. So we would have a police officer with us to help out, because if you have 12 or 20 people walking out there, getting across the road is gonna be impossible, but we'll try it.
It's the whole
Um,
point. Okay, so the idea is to walk that area between the
Mobile home park.
and
then do an
and down to
evaluation.
Family Dollar and
Yeah.
just figure out what the,
Yeah, and
sidewalk.
experience what goes on where you
Sidewalks.
have the sidewalks
The-
and you
the
don't have the
crossing.
sidewalks where the drop-offs are. Where the crosswalks would be and all of that.
Things that too, it would be helpful to do different times of the day, that incorporated into the plan too.
We've talked about having 2 walk audits to make sure we can cover everything, like one in the morning, if you could do one when the school buses were out, that would be quite interesting. And when all of the people come in, but there's 2 to 3 different times that everybody comes in. But at 3 something in the afternoon is crazy.
7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, and from 3 to 4:30 in the afternoon is.
Those times.
Yeah,
that would-
the
that
morning
would
when I'm
give you
trying
the
to get
best
out, yeah.
Idea of when, what's going,
Just to really see it.
So do
Believe
you
me, I-
think 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning?
7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, or 7:45, you'll see the traffic, they still got buses out, you still got people out on
Yeah,
the road.
like I said, I'm,
coming to work.
I'm amongst the traffic. Get out there.
I bet, and like I said,
But
probably,
on Monday and Friday, I
we
can go.
did like 3:30 to 4:30 would be another good target, because people are getting out of work, and schools.
Right then.
And activities
That's the-
after school, and we get a good idea of what the traffic is.
Those 2 times.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you do like the first week in the morning and then second week walk on it in the afternoon?
Mhm.
Or even other than just peak times,
Right.
because I think we've all seen the peak times and what the issues are.
Mhm.
Even if we don't go to work every day that way or whatever, I think that we've dealt with those times. But I'm open to whenever.
Mhm. All right, well, good, very good. So we want to have all of you involved, but you've got a work schedule.
I'm off Monday, Fridays. I mean, you don't have to plan around me, but on Monday
You're
or,
off on Monday and Friday?
yeah,
Okay,
depending.
well, that's
I'm in town.
good. Cause you're our great volunteers and we've got another committee too with them that does a lot of extra things. And we don't need just people over 50 because AARP is 50 plus and start, the day you're 50 years old and start sending you things. They're very well organized. It can be children, teenagers, can be family people and can take their family and check it out because families do try to walk. The one thing I noticed is when I first came to the community, I could walk down there. People were walking, going down to get something at the store and then go back, walk to their house. But you don't see many people out walking
I
anymore.
was gonna say, I don't see a lot of pedestrians in that area.
You don't anymore because
And-
it's so hectic and difficult.
It's
You'll see a few
dangerous.
people from the motel who live there, they'll walk around, but that's it, it's pretty dead, it isn't the way it used to be, and it's because of the traffic and perhaps other issues.
yeah.
Yeah. But, it's an excellent area to look at.
Yeah.
So basically, we would decide on the date of the walk, we'd have a little safety, discussion. We would make sure that we have, safety vests for all of you, which I do have, for everybody. AARP, has given us some shirts, so we would find out what size you need, could keep that. I could order more, so I've got, small, medium, large, and extra large, and the small is like a children's shirt, from what I can see. AARP will give us, a better sort of water bottles, we'll be giving you water and a little snack, because you'll be out there for an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Something like that.
They've also given us, although we don't, they must have a lot of these, a reflector for the bicycles,
Oh, well, that's.
which you
nice.
might like.
That's good.
And books, which are really well organized. So basically, we would have our little safety discussion and then go out. We'll have a police officer with us, maybe the school resource officer, because some teenagers would probably want to go along. Safety coordinator and a public works employee. It may need some cones that we would do someplace, but basically, we're gonna go on an organized walk. And look at the area, you've got the area up by the motel, you've got the area down, where you were going by Dunkin' Donuts, and then you've got the area by the mobile home park, so we would go on a little walk to look at all that. There's a book which we'll go through very quickly, where we write down our impressions and everything, and then I would organize all of that. And then once we put everything together, we'll have Public Works Director and our Emergency Management Director look over the results. And we'll send a draft out to everybody that goes on the walk so they can comment on it. And then the report will go to the town council so that they can look at it and endorse it or not. And then we'll send it off to Maine DOT, and we're gonna notify DOT of the walk because these are their roads. And the entrance to the industrial park, although the town owns it, MDOT has control over it and what we do. So we really need to talk to them. And they're,
You guys put speed bumps by the schools, on the roads where the schools are, to slow people down on those roads.
that's actually something that we'll look at in the big, safety.
I know the Columbus has them,
Mhm.
slow everybody down.
Speed tables.
Yeah, in the big safety plan,
Get everyone.
grant, that's something that we'll look at. Should we have speed bumps? Should you have raised crosswalks? And in our review, we may think that there should be a raised crosswalk, to go across.
Yeah.
Because you can paint the crosswalks, but the paint's gone in a month, when you can get the paint. It's amazing the things that, are on the chain supply, that don't work well. Paint is one of them now. So basically, the report will go to the Maine DOT, and there'll be some publicity about this, because it is sort of unique for the state of Maine for somebody to do this. This is something you do in the cities, but the area is an area where DOTs has so many different requirements, and they have so many different requests. And sometimes things don't get fixed until something bad happens, and so we want to prevent that if we can, or try to. So that's the project, and why don't we quickly look at the book? Which is really nifty, Walk Audit Toolkit. We're not gonna do every page of it, and there's about 12 different forms that they have. But basically, it, it doesn't have a page, but when you open it up inside, it has part one, getting started, and it tells you to get ready, get set, go for the walk audit. Part two is information and instructions. It has a streetscape vocabulary list, which has been already mentioned, which is kind of nifty. What is a complete street? It talks about how when you build a road, you deal with everything there so that pedestrians, bicyclists are also included. What the state has done and the town has done over the decades is we build the road for the vehicles. You don't really build it for pedestrians and bicyclists until the last 20 years or so, but there's a lot of roads out there before that. 3 is taking action, reporting the results, proposing solutions, strategies for safer streets. And there's a lot of worksheets in here. So we're not going to go through the whole book, but it is highly well organized. And talks about on page 2, what the walk audit is, an activity in which participants observe and evaluate the walkability of a location to identify and document if and how pedestrians can safely travel along a street, navigate an intersection, and get from point A to B and C and so forth, which is what we'll be doing. Walk audit can gather input about community infrastructure needs and investments, educate residents about design elements that support safety, and empower community members and local leaders to become agents of change, which all that can do. A walk audit can lead to reduced traffic congestion and pollution, healthier, more active lifestyles, increased property values, safer streets for people. So I think at this point, I'm not sure how we would increase the property values in this particular project, but definitely we can put together information for safer streets, so people can be more healthy, more active lifestyles, go out walking again, from the different items that we'll have. So there's a nice book here, which on page 4 talks about the steps to get ready. You identify your walk area location. you decide on the type of walk, and some places, will just have a walk in which you stand there and look at an intersection. We're gonna do a walking audit that has a larger area between different destinations. So ours is a little bit more complicated, but that's the area where the congestion is. And who invite people to participate, so we're gonna contact the business owners, so they, at the plaza and all the locations along the way, so they know about this. The schedule that we set up will be dependent upon getting a location. If we can get the location at the old Walpole building to park, that would be good, but if not, we'll get permission at the plaza. Then we choose the date and time, which is what we're gonna work on. We got a suggestion on doing it one week and the next week. I think that's really good. And then we'll have worksheets for this, and they've got 12 worksheets. We're not gonna do everything. We'll do what works out well. We make a map of the intersection, and that's on page 7 as well as the area. And then on page 8, it talks about go on the walk audit. And it talks about what to do, what to write down when you're on the audit. And then details to focus on, like turning lanes, curb cuts, sidewalks, crosswalks, and vehicle stop lines, lighting, for example. We won't be seeing the lighting at night, but we will see some of the items. The next few pages, page 10, 11. Are the vocabulary, which is really nice, talks about all the different items you can have. Pages 12 to 13 is what a complete street is. That's when you plan your street to help everybody, pedestrians, bicyclists, and the vehicles. And then it goes on page 15, you can see a sample summary where people had written down the different items, if they thought the sidewalk, streets, and crosswalks were good. If they thought the sidewalks were good, if the street and crossings were good. And then you see you've got a number of responses, yes, and responses no, and then the rating that they put down. So that's a combination. Everybody would have their own sheet, and then we'll combine them. I'll write up the report. And it talks about the sample report on page 17 and the reporting. And page 18 to 19 talks about reporting the results and proposing solutions, which is where we would be going to the town council and then to the main DOT. And on pages 20 on, they've got some strategies for safer streets. Some of this is more city life, but some of it does have some good suggestions. They talk about America Walks on page 23. And when I started working on these different projects, I've signed up for the America Walks, and they've had some wonderful programs, the little half an hour webinars that tell you different things to do when you build your streets and look at your areas and everything. We also signed up for Rails to Trails, which helps out in building different trails and how to do them. And we have a major trail that was a railway here going through the middle of town, which we've applied for a grant on, and that organization gave us a lot of different ideas to submit the grant application. So it all fits together. You can see on page 24 the different worksheets, and I'll print out the ones that we need. So this sounded pretty good. So I'm hoping that the recycling committee members all want to go on it, as well as several people that have already signed up. And so we'll look at, if you want, the period of 7:30 to 8:30 for the first week, and then the second week, 3:30 to 4:30, or do you want to do different times?
See, like both times, could make the critical time, unless there was much traffic.
Middle of the afternoon from 11 until 1, 2, you got other different traffic, people going to one, so.
Yeah, the only time that I've seen just amazing amount of traffic is like 5:45 coming into town. It is just crazy.
People who
But we're
work
not
out,
gonna all go, nobody's gonna all
That's what
go
else
out
is
at
in there.
5:45 here.
with Gosford or whatever, and they get out at 5, they got a 45 or 50-minute ride anyway home.
So I thank you for coming in. I know we spent a lot of time going over these items.
A quick update on the building down across from the transfer station. Anything happening?
Yep, last week at Vernon Williams and the town manager came down trying to make a decision on what they wanted to do. So they have decided that they're going to go with a contractor to do the roof. They got $2,800 for the materials and they're gonna have a contractor bid out or get prices. If it's under the bid amount, there's 3 places to have a contractor do it. And then we're gonna rip out all the walls and the ceilings and we're gonna stack them, and then it's re-insulated.
Major,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
later, yeah,
gonna be a while for it's. Up to you again.
Yeah, I know that they had the money, I guess Bernard had told them that there's, on the completion of the roof, we're gonna get another $6,800 or something that the insurance company is committed to the building, so. I originally was gonna have the public works do the roof, I was gonna do the shingling. I just wanted to help, finding do stuff, and they decided to use the insurance money and do the roof, and then they thought that the inside, if we pour it out, would be beneficial with the smell of mold and.
yeah, do it right.
From what we know is solid from the inside, and just redo it. Doesn't sound like it's gonna be anything fancy, they're just gonna put the new, it's a fiberglass insulation.
Yeah.
That we talked about spring insulation, and because of the bugs and the rodents, so we're still in the discussion of that, but. Sheetrock paint the walls, so rather than going back with wood or ton of roof that's harder to access if we do have any problems with the future with electricity or. Plumbing, so it's going to be saved and done, so they're gonna do it right.
Oh, it'd be basic work for a
Nice.
basic building.
It's a nice building, I mean, it's the structurally it's solid, so it's a.
It was built really well.
Yeah, it's built very well by the.
Well, that would be good. So getting a contractor at this time is gonna be difficult.
Bernard said he had 3 of them, he's gonna propose prices, and he thinks they're all gonna be under $7,500, so.
That's really good.
Yeah, it is, so it sounds like there are a few contractors out there that are looking for work, so.
Well, that's amazing.
Yes,
Because
it
people have been
is.
calling in asking for
I
contractors.
see a small company the other day that was from the time that I went into work until the time I came out. The town office for a meeting at 10 and stripped the roof and had the roof done. I'm like,
Huh.
I said, I don't know who did that,
Yeah.
what company that is, and people that I haven't seen before. They're out of Waterville, but I'll tell you what, they make a quick roof that, it was Rick McCarthy's house, they make quick.
Oh, yeah.
Roof, I couldn't even believe it. I said, they stripped it and shingled it.
All right, anything else?
Are there any proposed dates for doing this in September?
We were looking at the second week of September if possible. So it's based upon what you all want to do, and the police and public works said that they would do whatever we could. And I've got several other people on the list. I'll propose that, but you said Mondays and Fridays you're available. Yeah.
Basically, I mean, sometimes I'm out of town, but I would especially like to do the morning one. That'd be great.
All right, good. What I'll do is
Second
work
week looks good.
on that. And then after we close out the meeting, tell me the size shirt that you want. And we'll have, I know they're red, but we'll have safety vests over there too.
Yeah, I think people will notice a group of people walking down the street. and we'll be
I
saying,
think they'll know.
But if the ARP wants to give us a shirt, sure.
That is a good idea, that's a good idea, safety vests, because
Mhm.
some
Yeah,
people
definitely.
don't, even if it's red, they think. We're gonna just go. Yeah, right past you.
Well, very good. Thank you all for coming in.
Thank you.
It's greatly appreciated. The recycling committee meeting looks like it's being adjourned here. Great, thank you all so much. I'll be in contact regarding dates, just to check with you. And as soon as I get this turned off, which is always interesting here.
Barn building,
I tell you what,
barn raising, that's what they call it.
barn is there. Actually, there's somebody that's looking to build up into. Up in the virtual terrace.
I don't have it off
They call
yet.
it a barn.
I have it smaller.
Barn, like the barn, they don't go without. Barn, a barn and then. Never, But I've seen what it looks like. Condominium. Not a condominium, but a barndominium. All right.
Are we gonna meet again the second Thursday in September? for this?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
All right,
Yes, things aren't working well here.
It's
Other
September
pop-ups
12th.
have come up.
How about sign that, great?
No, I guess.
How many hours?
check out this computer.
They, I know, that may. Last 2 weeks, they've been. Over 60.
I'll get your shirt sizes as soon as I get this.
How's it going up at the transfer station?
Gone someplace, but I know it's
I'm
still.
still trying to get my landlord to recycle because, he's, refusing to pick it up, and. It's up to the ceiling and the recycle shed. I didn't know again, I went in and.
Oh, thank you.
I dressed
I'll get your
on,
shirt
I
sizes.
dressed
Yeah, just so.
everything that.
Although you-
Okay.
But when they.
I am still on, yes. I can't get it turned off. Usually it's really easy to do.
There's a light bulb.
What you can do is send me the times that we're gonna do this,
Still have
because I have to look at my
power.
website, because my
But-
hours are.
I regular water.
Well,
Over, and then
I'll try